The truth is out there, and we're gonna find it in our bookshelves. Hey y'all, welcome back to another video of My Creative Life with Kelssweetie, where we read books and we make art. Today, we are talking about some creature feature book recommendations. I've compiled 5 of my favorite creature feature books to give to all of y'all. I wanted to do some summerween content that's a little bit fun, as you can see from the lighting. We will switch back to my normal lighting after this intro. But I wanted to do something fun that felt very summery to me. And for me, I realized that's aliens, creature features, and slasher blockbuster films. So expect a summer blockbuster film book recommendations video coming soon, but today we are talking about all of our favorite creature features, from aliens to monsters to legends. I can't wait to share it with y'all. This is one of my favorite genres to read in sci-fi and horror and everything in between, and I really love this book recommendations video. I'm really happy with what I came up with, so I can't wait to share it with y'all. I hope that y'all enjoyed that lighting from our intro. We'll be back with that at the outro. I'm really having a lot of fun playing with my new lighting, so I hope that y'all enjoyed. Back to our normal lighting though. I don't know if I could do a whole video with just that lighting, but I can't wait to share with y'all the creature feature recommendations that I have today. I started off wanting this to be an alien recommendations one because I am certain that Alien is the best, like Alien things, X-Files, all of that are best August material. I think it has to do with Area 51 or something, and all these Roswell, all this stuff happening in the desert that makes me think of the summer when I think of aliens for some reason. But I also think it's a great transition into the colder months for there to be aliens. So for some reason, that's my focus, and that's why I've had a lot of that stuff on my summerween bucket list for this year. And I started off with that. I realized then that I had a lot more creature feature type of book recommendations to give to y'all, and I still felt like it was in the same vein. However, if you look behind me, you may notice that I have some of my creature feature different things, my X-Files memorabilia, some aliens, VHS, and stuff like that. So I'm hoping to also, now that I've really moved kind of forward a little bit, you can see more of my bookcase, to feature more of kind of the things that I have around my home that are like on topic for the genre or book recs or whatever we're talking about that month. I think it'll be a lot of fun. I don't know, still experimenting with a lot of different things. Let's get into these book recs. My first book recommendation, I wanted to go with something more alien specific. The most on the nose one that I could think of was Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. I know. This is probably the most talked about book that a lot of people, I feel like a little bit of people have kind of calmed down on even reading it, which is surprising because it did just get a like green light, and like the movie or the series is coming out soon, which I'll be watching it. I'm trying to temper my expectations because I loved this book so much and the audiobook was amazing. And so I just feel like I don't want to be disappointed. I'm going to temper my expectations. But this book was amazing. It got me into a big sci-fi moment last year or year before last, I think it was. I think I even started the year off with this book, which was unfair to any other things that I read the entire year. But we follow our main character. He wakes up on a spaceship, has no clue why he's there, has amnesia, and he's slowly getting his memory back as he's starting to realize why he's on the ship and things are happening to him. He's basically there to save the entire world. So Earth has lost its sun, it's lost its resources, and he has traveled light years away, knowing that he will not be probably coming back, to basically find a light source to send back the information to Earth so that we can be saved. That doesn't really give you too much in regards to what actually happens in this book and what makes it amazing. He, of course, doesn't realize this until a little bit further as he's starting to put things together. But there are so many feelings you go through while reading this book, whether it's just that, our main character is interesting to listen to. He started off as like a fourth grade, fifth grade history teacher, science teacher. Was a science teacher or a history teacher? One of the two. But he was just a simple, very simple guy. And the earth started going through all these different changes, which hearing about like these changes and our sun dying out and all of this that starts going on feels so real and understandable, but also not in a very bleak way, in my opinion. It's just very much, I would recommend this in the same vein that like Interstellar. Like that is what this book is comparable to, in my opinion. Is Interstellar is talking a lot about we're losing our sun, we're losing these resources and everything, and it's high and it's intense and all of that. But it's more so focusing on the adventure and the journey of it rather than the bleakness of why that journey has to happen in the first place, in my opinion. We also go through my favorite character I think that's ever been written is in this book. I don't want to tell you too much about who it is, but I feel like when you look up this book, you see a lot of people saying things like Rocky. That is all I'm going to give you. Well, Rocky is amazing. Rocky is honestly the cuddliest, amazing alien form you've probably ever heard of in your entire life. And in all honesty, and that's coming from somebody who has arachnophobia. And that's all I can give you. I know all of these things seem to not really go together, but this book is written so well as a storyline, as a journey, that you are there for the ride, and it's just so great. I still have to read The Martian by Andy Weir. I know that there's the movie The Martian that was amazing. Everybody lost their minds about it with Matt Damon. I haven't seen it in a while. I need to watch it again. But in my mind, I don't even know if The Martian can possibly top this. But I also know The Martian doesn't have an audiobook, so we will see whenever I get to that. But my first one, it seems like a layup for this theme, and that was Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. The next one on this list are more like aliens on Earth, is what I'm kind of talking about. This one and the next one I would recommend as aliens on Earth. And that is Queen of Teeth by Haley Piper. Last year, I couldn't shut up about this book. It was because I read it on a whim. And I ended up, it was, so Haley Piper is an amazing, amazing trans femme author. I really love her work, and she's known throughout the indie horror universe. But one thing that she loves is Godzilla. And you can tell in this book that she was letting all her Godzilla dreams come true. It has to do with the nearish future where a lot of intersex kind of folks they have a certain chromosome in this world. They don't call themselves intersex, but it's kind of like a certain chromosome of sort. They are put under surveillance by the government, and they have to take these certain hormones and medicines that are administered by the government. And what ends up happening is our main character Yaya finds teeth between your legs. And I know what you're thinking, because I was thinking it too. Oh, okay, it's like that one movie that came out that was like I forget what it was called. It might have just been called Teeth. Or but it's not that. And it's very sapphic. She's falling in love with another agent of some sort. The police and the government are after her as this alien being starts to take over her body. And by the end, it feels like this raged war by like a xenomorph type. I feel like it gives xenomorph energy. Like, you know how the xenomorphs are their mothers? That's a mother right there. That is what this entity is that's living within Yaya. And at first, they have an understanding. And the understanding starts to go away at some point. I had so much fun reading this. I thought that it was written well. I think that this is a concept that some people feel like they've heard before. Like, we've had the movie Vagina Dentata is not a new concept, but I feel like the way that Haley Piper approached it, it definitely was. And I think that the way that even the ending, again, felt very Godzilla King Kong-esque, felt like a very nostalgic type of alien film, which is crazy to say when you're thinking of the fact that what this plot all comes from. So I can't recommend it enough. It is a shorter novel, but it packs a punch, and I still think about it all the time. I constantly will recommend this book for all time. Honestly, this book, again, I say all the time, changed my brain chemistry. The next book in this lineup, which also is similar in my opinion to what Queen of Teeth does, and that's again aliens on Earth, an entity kind of taking over a person's body because of government experimentation, and that is Sorrowland by River Solomon. This book turned, I say this all the time, I feel like I just said this recently. This book turned me into a River Solomon stan, and it was because it combined so many genres that I love into one story, and it felt seamless to me. It felt like, well, we needed to have those genres. We needed to have the ghostly horror. We needed to have the lit fic of historical trauma. We needed to have the science fictional alien that comes up. In this, it's queer. Our main character Fern is intersex and grew up on a black cult, which we don't hear enough about black people being in cults. And I think we should. I'm not saying that like I want more black people in cults. I'm just saying it happens, okay? And I think that it was very interesting. She ends up escaping and she ends up having two children. They're twins and they end up growing feral and they end up having to go back into civilization because they're on the run and being tracked down by their old cult. And you're wondering if it's just one of those things where the cult doesn't want to let her go. And by the end, you find out why they desperately need to get Fern back. I think it took so many surprising turns in here, but in a way that didn't feel like they weren't going just anywhere that the wind took them. I think that River Solomon wrote something that felt exciting in its twists and turns, but seamless and cohesive. And by the end, I will tell you, if you're into a sci-fi or anything, it starts off very lit fic. It becomes horror and it ends sci-fi. And that is the best way to describe the many different emotions in the roller coaster that is this book, is really that chain of events. I've already told you kind of the background. I can't tell you a play-by-play of what ends up in here. That is all I can give you. Again, I feel like this is the same thing with even like what I was saying with Project Hail Mary, is that some of these, like especially creature feature books, are best if I don't give you everything and I just give you top level stuff. But Fern's amazing. Fern ends up being this like badass, amazing entity. And I cannot recommend it enough. Everybody who I've recommended this book to has come back to me and goes, "Oh, I see now why you're a River Solomon stan. I see now. I don't even know what I just read, but I loved what I just read. It was amazing." Moving on into government experiments. I think that was a good segue, right? We were moving into government experiments from aliens on Earth. The Loop by Jeremy Robert Johnson. Most fun I've probably had reading a book, to be honest. This is an action film. It reads like an action film. It reads like a gory summer blockbuster type of film, to be honest. And if you go into it knowing that, like you're not necessarily looking for something that's like literary fiction that's saying a whole lot or anything like that, but you're looking for something that has to do with just a fun, gory, ragey time, then I highly recommend The Loop to you. This book was so much fun to listen to and read and all of that. Has to do with a small town, another small town. And what is it? Small town where? In Oregon. In Oregon. It was a small town. Our main character, she's Latino. She's Panamanian. She was adopted by a white family, and that's why she lives in this Oregon town. That's not necessarily a huge component of it. It honestly, it's not even a huge component, really, that much of who she is as a person. Too much, in my opinion, which honestly I kind of appreciated. I read Polybius recently. Polybibus? I cannot say the name of the title correctly, and so I'm going to say it incorrectly in order for me to just move through it, and that's Polybius. All right, I know it's wrong, y'all. I know it is. All right, I read it recently, and I felt like they tried to do the same thing in that book that Jeremy Robert Johnson did in this book, and it ended up feeling like a race bait that was a little bit weird. But this doesn't do that, and I think it talks about classism, and it talks about generation issues. It talks about government issues. It talks about government experimentation on small towns and different weaponization that can happen in these places. It's very Stranger Things on coke. I think that that's the best way to explain this. It's really that, because these kids at her high school who are the like popular kids of some kind, they start losing their minds. And I mean, like, just rage driven, killer, sociopathic tendencies one night just happen. And you spend the entire book running from these kids and them infecting other kids and other people or killing them brutally. And I think there were so many moments in here that you just didn't want to stop. There didn't feel like a moment where it was like, okay, I can stop reading here because we hit a lull or anything like that. I really did love it. And I also loved even the ending, because I think that a lot of books lately, I've been reading books that I've been interested in. It's been great. We're two-thirds in, and then we get to that last third and the ending. And we've grown such a huge world and such a big situation that I feel like a lot of authors don't know how to get themselves out of it in a way that feels like it's not a cheat. And I don't feel like it was a cheat in this one. I think that it was ended in a way that I was like, yeah, I'll take that. Sometimes happy endings just don't happen in order for you to get out of that mess. And so I could appreciate the ending on this. And I do think that I do think if you're into government experiments happening on citizens and alien type entities and all of that, then I cannot recommend The Loop more to you. I absolutely loved it. I'll keep on telling people about it. I don't think enough people talk about it, to be honest. And so this is my campaign to get people talking about this more. My next book has to do with more so the creature of the forest and a monster sort rather than an actual like alien type of thing. And that's Jackal by Aaron E. Adams. I love this book. I think I underestimated how much of an impact it would make on me when I kept on hearing about it about a year ago. And I was like, oh, it'll probably be good. The ending and the message behind this book has stuck with me over time. And so you guys have probably heard me many different times recommend this book. And that's because I don't want the hype around it to die down. I want more people to keep reading this book because it really is amazing. And in the end, it really does have to do with a monster, both literal and metaphysical, and emotional and psychological. It has to do with our main character, and she goes back home to the Appalachias for a wedding of her best friends. In her hometown, it is known that Black women and Black girls go missing quite frequently, unfortunately. And unfortunately, the cops never do anything in trying to find this or find the reason why they go missing. And Liz, um, had even once almost been a victim of it. She's also an immigrant of I think they're West Indian. I'm not certain about whether or not they're West Indian or not, but her mother is an immigrant. And her one of her best friends, she's white, but she has an adoptive Black daughter from her being like in her new marriage. From her new marriage, she goes missing. And that's of course when the police start paying attention, unfortunately. And Liz starts going down the rabbit hole trying to find her niece. What she ends up finding is something she never thought that she would find. And it's very much interesting the turn of events that happens in this book in regards to what's been kidnapping the kids and what that entity ends up doing in the end. And even what Liz ends up saying in the very end, amongst it all, which really has to do with this conversation of a monster that lives inside of all of us and attacking this monster of racism and all of that, that it's something that's a joint effort, not just something to put on somebody else regardless of whether you are the one doing it or whether or not you're the victim. And I thought that that was a very complex idea that Ernie Adams did very well summing up in this monster story. So highly recommend this. Honestly, I think that it'd be, y'all wait, I know y'all get on me about it, but I do wish that it would be an adaptation, like a series. I could see a series, not a movie, a series of this. I think it'd be really good. I have such high hopes for adaptations, okay? I think that adaptations can be amazing. We're just losing the source material along the way while we're shooting it. The final recommendation in this list is something that's a little more akin to what Jackal was, and that is The Wishing Pool by Tananarive Due. I wanted to make sure that I included this short story because all of the stories in here, in my opinion, are somewhat creature features in one way or another. They make you feel unsettled like a creature feature does. Some of them are alien stories. Some of them are monster stories. Some of them are men of monster stories as well. Not too many of them, but some of the most memorable out of here were creature features that I thought were really, really interesting and poignant. I always talk about the Skinamarink moment in this book when it comes to caretaker and this idea of these ants that are sentient and they've been taking care of this child, but also they're not necessarily a great entity either because some people end up dying. But also, this is a part of the upcoming novel from Tananarive, which is the bear. What is it? The incident at Bear Creek Lodge. That's going to be her new novel that's coming up. We found out recently, and part 1 and part 2 are in here, which has to do with a grandson who is going to meet his grandmother. They're estranged. His estranged grandmother, and something's wrong with her. I don't know exactly what's wrong with her. By the end, you don't know if she's the entity, whether she's taking care of the entity out there in the middle of the forest, in the middle of the woods, but she's off. And I loved it though because it was the type of granny horror that's a lot of fun, but in the concept of a Black woman and the horrors and the trauma that she's experienced because she was an actress that was like a McDaniel, so did a lot of minstrel type of work and everything. And we don't really get granny horror from the point of view of Black women, of course. And I felt like that was a really interesting story, and I'm so excited. I can't wait to read the actual full-length novel of this one. So I highly recommend it, especially if you're into creature features, but you like to have like short little bite sizes of them. I do recommend you read The Wishing Pool because there's so many different stories to choose from in here. So that's it for all of my book recommendations for today's Creature Feature Book Recs video. I hope that you enjoyed it, and I hope that you stick around or subscribe down below if you are looking forward to any of our slasher summer blockbuster film book recommendations. I had a lot of fun coming up with all of these different recommendations that are on theme for our summerween bucket list that we are moving through. I can't believe we're already halfway through the summer. And I'm so excited to share more with you all. So please stick around to check that out. I can't wait to share some of that with you.